Going. All right, we're live. Thanks again, guys, for joining us in. We're 15 minutes late or 15 minutes early. I scheduled it for 2:30. It was going to be 2 o'clock, but we had some scheduling conflicts, but that's okay. We're here now. And we're back with the wonderful world of Erik Kain and his doubling down on the definition of Rey from Star Wars and whether or not she is, in fact, a Mary Sue. So, as we know, this is LiteratureDevil, and he's written and made videos about this topic. We've talked about it last week. We've talked about it about the Star Wars franchise, other Mary Sues. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be great.
This guy's a gift that just keeps on giving.
Yeah, and we just found out that he has a third one. So we're probably going to be back here next week and just watch him tripling down on all his wonderful ideas that he has no evidence with or for. So, all right, this was written in 2017 December. So this is, I guess, right after the Last Jedi came out. And no, Rey from Star Wars: The Last Jedi is still not a Mary Sue. Here we go.
Let's see why she isn't the Mary Sue.
One of the most annoying things about the aftermath of Star Wars: The Force Awakens was listening to the endless tide of complaints that Rey, the new trilogy's upstart protagonist, was a Mary Sue. Spoilers ahead. I wrote an article back in 2015, and I still get random, lengthy comments explaining in disturbingly obsessive detail. You know, if I start getting comments from my fans of where I screwed up or like references, like I didn't exactly screw up, but I got my lore wrong because that was being reported incorrectly by journalists. And I have all these people in my comments saying, no, no, this is not what thin blood means in bloodlines. It means you're a seventh or eighth or 14th or 15th generation vampire. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you, people who know better. And
Yeah,
we talk to each other. Eric's like, no.
they're disturbingly obsessive in detail.
Yeah,
That's what how
that's all
he
it is. It just
characterizes.
disturbs me. I'm very
And people,
super.
you people actually like this stuff. That's disturbing.
It's just, ugh. Mary Sue, for those of you not familiar with the term, is a character almost always female. Well, by definition, it is female. So, always female, who everybody loves and who does everything right. But just to be clear, who cares? The gender doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it could be any of the 10,000
Like,
genders.
yeah, when we talk about Wesley Crusher, we call him Mary Sue, even though technically it's a Gary Stew, but we don't really care.
Yeah, Mary Sue is a all-encompassing. It's a very tolerant term, so it can cover anyone.
Yeah, it's the parent term. I like the actual simplest definition. That's the best one. So practically perfect in every way, true, but to such a degree that the character becomes almost a parody. Not necessarily.
Not really, no. Parody would be actually if you had a Mary Sue as a parody character, it might work because it's a parody. And Mary Sue is pretty much that level of like parody ridiculousness, except it's played straight. Like it's not done for irony or anything like that. Like here's our character; it's perfect and awesome in every way.
Yeah, but the things she does can be considered farce just because they're so
Yeah,
out of
so
nowhere.
ridiculous.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, what did
Is it?
that?
Is this not intentional on their part?
Yeah, but it is because in the case of the Force Awakens, she does things and she looks at the gun she just fired and she, how did I do that? And then Finn's like, how did you do that? And then
I don't know.
yeah, so it's kind of laughable in a bad way because we're like, how is this happening? And there's no explanation.
Mystery box.
And I doubt we're going to get an explanation in the third movie anyway. So the term comes from the humorous short story A Trekkie's Tale, which you can yeah. So that was a farce or a parody.
Yeah, Trekkie Tale was a parody
Yeah,
explaining Mary Sue's.
but that's not the gold standard. That's just the origin.
Yeah, this is the origin. That's
Yeah.
where Mary Sue came from and everything.
Okay. Well, the same old grumblings have resurfaced with the oddly divisive Last Jedi. Oddly divisive, you say? I wonder why he thinks that. And once again, they're utter hogwash again. They usually come bundled with similar complaints about such boogeymen as cultural Marxism. See YouTuber H Bomber Guy's excellent tearing
And
apart of that ludicrous term here, and that's signal enough for me to know. Oh, because a YouTuber said so. It's
as a
rubbish.
YouTuber who is a troll, he cites a troll as a source, and because he says so, that's the way it must be.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to, which specific component of cultural Marxism that could be economic, that could be social. Whenever I think of Marxism and I think of what you learn, at least from a philosophical view, you're talking about dialectics, or what's I think Marx termed dialectical Marxism. And what Marx did was he took the standard essay format. I don't know if you guys are familiar how essays work, but it's basically you have a premise, you have your body, and your conclusion. So you have a thesis statement, you
Mm-hmm.
have your antithesis statement, and then you come to a conclusion, which is called the synthesis statement. This is referred to as the Hegelian dialectic. What Marx did was he took that step, those three steps, and he turned it on its head. And what that allows people to do who use dialectical materialism is invent the world. And this was like the bedrock for postmodernism, because then you can just reinterpret every single thing as whatever you want, because your thesis becomes your conclusion.
Yeah,
So
that sounds like Marxism.
that is, I mean, that's what's called not self-appropriating. It's sort of a self-continuing error. It just keeps perpetuating itself, because anything can just I can just reinvent feminism. I can reinvent socialism. It's great. It's going to be fantastic. Can't you see my argument? It's just so clear. So I
One thing, one thing about the term about cultural Marxism, as far as I've understand it, as it is colloquially speaking, it seems to be you know how one of the major tenets of Marxism is the bourgeois versus the proletariat. It's divisions of via class, but cultural Marxism is more of divisions by culture. Like instead of just the rich and poor, or the people who control the means of production versus the people who just the working party and everything. It's more along the lines of oppressed and oppressor, and people who are categorized as oppressed versus people who are categorized as oppressor, which is usually the majority being the oppressor and the minority being the oppressed. So it's a what they mean, what I seem to have look conjectured to that cultural Marxism means today is that your movies and TV shows and things that we consider quote unquote HJW are trying to perpetuate the idea that you are oppressed if you're X, Y, and Z, and you are an oppressor if you are X, Y, and Z too. Like if you're oppressor if you are straight white male, you are an oppressee if you are gay or a darker skin color. Like no matter what, you are always oppressed. Even if you're rich, even if you're like a gay black man who's rich and has a high position somewhere, you're oppressed. It doesn't matter. You're still oppressed. And even if you are this trailer trash white person who has like living paycheck to paycheck, you are an oppressor, no matter what. That's
and
what it
that's
seems
that's
cultural
a very
Marxism is.
good parallel as to why intersectional feminism takes it, because they want to break down whatever they see as broken, and they can use that as an example. They'll latch onto it. They can use it philosophically. They can use it socially.
Hmm.
They can apply everything else, economics, and make this worldview, which is totally insane. And we have examples of history showing how bad it is, how bad Marxism is, how bad communism is.
Oh yeah.
The arguments. I mean, everyone. I wasn't studying much philosophy. I did do first year phil in university, but everyone who even mentioned postmodernism was just like, are you like, is there something wrong with you? Like, why would you waste your life even contemplating that? Like, it was a joke. And that was like back in late '90s for me, at least. And
Hmm.
I'm surprised it's resurfaced as a not a cultural thing, but more like a media lens to look at things. And I can't wrap my brain around it. But um, the fact that this is even an argument is strange, and that he decides to quote it. And this is the pattern we see with leftist thinking or leftist critics. They just, oh well, they're using philosophy. It must be smart, and we're not even going to even contemplate what that means. If they actually studied philosophy, who knows?
It seems like they take concepts as a whole rather than looking at the individual parts, because there's a lot of individual parts when it comes to things like philosophy. And you see, I don't know if anyone here has followed the YouTuber Diversity in Comics. He's now called Comics Matter, but he also looks into modern Marvel. He reviews their comics, and one thing he did point out was that one of the traits that all their new diversity heroes have is they all love what he calls the science, which means they're not really chemistry or into biology or anything like that. They love the science because they have to be female and be into the STEM fields.
Right.
So the writers have nothing, they have no idea what the specifics of science or have any background in science or have even the slightest idea. They just know the characters need to have an obsession with science. So it's like, all right, science, then they know it.
It's a pattern. It's very strange, and I'm kind of curious who's buying these stories, but that's another topic. So let's just
Yeah,
march
it's
on
a
here.
whole other thing.
Yeah, so Ray is not a Mary Sue. No matter how many times you copy paste that 10 paragraph essay you found
10
on Reddit
paragraph
about
essay.
how she is. Well, maybe that essay doesn't have any examples or evidence, but I mean, we can go over a whole bunch of pieces if we
Oh
like.
yeah,
She's
I'm
not a
ready.
Mary Sue no matter how badly it bothers you to see a young female Jedi this powerful in the Force without any. Okay, this whole sentence is beautiful. She is not a Mary Sue no matter how badly it bothers you. Okay, first of all, it doesn't bother me. Secondly, she's not a Jedi. And thirdly, we
There,
this makes no sense. We know how the Force works, and the narrative is not showing us why it works differently or how it works differently.
yeah, you have to at least explain it.
That's all you got to do. How is she so powerful? Her mom's a super Sith Lord. Okay,
Nope,
great. That makes something. I mean, it's not the best explanation, but it's something.
it's something. They give us nothing. They have this all stuff. The answers in that mystery box.
Yeah, I
And
mean this.
there have been very popular female users of the Force in Jedi in Star Wars lore that fans liked. They weren't bothered by it. And there's a Ashoka Tano from the Clone Wars series. People like her. She's female. She does a lot of cool stuff. She's powerful. Uh, there are a lot of examples of female Force users in the extended span universe. Is that Disney got rid of it all, but there hasn't been any problems until Rey came out, and that's probably because she has all these ridiculous traits with
And
no
she
explanation.
comes across as a piece of fan fiction, which
Yeah,
is exactly what a Mary Sue is written like.
a fan fiction.
It's a power fantasy with no explanation, with no reasoning as to how and why and all this like formal training. This is we know why people need training. We know why they're kids as they're taken from birth or not birth, but toddlers, whatever, to the Jedi temples to train. That's
He says this great sentence later on about training too. I don't think we've gotten to it yet.
okay. No, you
Oh,
don't get to
I'm
say
just gonna
that
get there.
said training is required for her to be good at any of its things she does because this is a space fantasy that regularly changes the rules as it done so since. Okay, you know
No,
what? Maybe let's say
no.
this is true. So let's look at the rules it's changed. All right. So we've learned that the Force
Mhm.
is measured by midi-chlorians,
Right
and that's
now,
a
yeah.
retcon. But does it break anything?
Not really. It's
Not.
just really dumb.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid, and it's made to show that Anakin was really powerful.
But it doesn't break anything.
Right. It doesn't like change. Oh, Yoda, does this because Yoda's really powerful with midi-chlorians too. He has lots.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like giving us a trying to clarify by not by taking away the mysticism of the Force and making it more empirical, which is good and bad. There's a trade-off,
Hmm.
but that changed. Um, what else are there Force powers that we've discovered before Force Awakens that
It's yeah. The Force has always had some sort of baseline because in the original trilogy, you start off with the Force being you're able to push things, be able to lift things with your mind or with the Force. You're able to summon things to your hand. Uh, and then as the trilogy goes on, we get to see like you can throw things. You force lightning, which is the Emperor can use. And then we go on to the prequels, which gives you things like you get the mind read. You can even in the original trilogy, you can change people's minds. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Right, right. And
Uh,
even with like the Sith Emperor, we understand he's an old Sith powerful dude
yeah,
and he does
he's like
stuff that no one else can do. So it's like, all right, yeah, he's one of
it's
those
like
guys.
evil Yoda. That's pretty
Exactly,
much
yeah.
what he is.
Yeah. So
But
I can't
all of these come from the same like core elements. None of them
yeah,
really
there's
break anything.
I can't think of any particular example of Star Wars that has something that regularly changes the rules. It's invented, like when you say midi-chlorians, it's invented new rules, but it hasn't changed the old ones.
Yeah, the metachlorians was just a measuring tool. It didn't change anything about the force
Right.
except how it works. Like except for technically where it comes from, or a measurement of how natural in the force you are. But it doesn't change the fact
Right.
that you can. It doesn't give you him any new powers.
Yeah, like we learned that you can still use the Force if you have a robotic arm, and that makes sense because we see Luke do that, we see Darth Vader do that. There's the speculation that the Force can give you eternal life, or bring people back from the dead. That's kind of like a thing that the Emperor does to charm Anakin into coming over to the dark side. There's no examples of that though. There's no proof. It's just
Yeah.
sort of like a ploy.
And so far,
Um,
the one standard has been that you can, if you use the force, you can attain the knowledge to do all kinds of strange powers. He's not wrong about that. But there's always been that the whole thing about you have to get stronger in the force to use stronger powers and to have your powers be stronger. You don't just get awesome game breaking moves right off the bat. You have to earn these things, and that's you see that with pretty much everyone. Even if you don't actually get to see their specific training, you at least get a background of them developing force powers and then training to get them stronger.
yeah, there's always a lag between learning and figuring it out. Like there's something there, and now you know it. Whereas Ray, boom, give her maybe
Yeah.
5 seconds, give her 10 seconds, and then she'll get it.
And one thing I noticed about the Last Jedi is that Rey still never lost. But I guess we'll get there. I think we're about to
Yeah.
get there.
So he's already got this wrong. And again, he doesn't. If he has evidence, if he actually give us an example, I'd be like, okay, maybe he's got something there. But we can't argue that. We don't know what he's talking about. So, in The Last Jedi, Luke says he's only seen raw power like Rey's once before in Kylo Ren. Now, raw power just means untamed power. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean she's a god. It doesn't mean she's super weak. It just means it's raw. It stands to reason that both young Ben Solo and Rey are, in fact, far more powerful than any of the Jedi from the previous generations. Then why can't he take on Snoke? If
And that's not, it
Solo's.
doesn't even make any sense. Hold on. They're obviously far more powerful than any Jedi with the previous generation. When Luke Skywalker became a Jedi, the Jedi Order was pretty much already gone. So he doesn't have a big baseline to go with. He might have Darth Vader, maybe, but he just because Luke Skywalker says that I never heard seen this raw power before, doesn't mean that they are the strongest ever and can therefore be justified in doing all the crazy things that they do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was never really defined as what raw power was. So whoop de doo da day. Uh, if we show an example of it being raw and then why she needs training or why she doesn't need training, that'd be great. But we never get it. And this sentence just keeps getting better. So uh, uh, then Ray, who for whatever reason has an edge over her angry, angsty counterpart, regardless of how untrained she is. Yeah, it doesn't explain that. So they're both raw, but
Mhm.
Ray's stronger. All
Yeah, just
because
because.
all because Kylo is Sith or dark side, which doesn't make sense because Sith is
Isn't he supposed to be stronger because he
exactly
runs on emotion?
because he uses his emotions, not just his mental training, whereas Ray has no mental training and no emotions, or not as much emotions.
Yeah.
So it's like 0 plus 0 is still 0, whereas Kylo has anger as well as training. So he has 1 plus 1. So 0 is greater than 2. So I don't know what he's talking about here.
His next sentence, this is the one I was talking
Oh
about.
yeah, okay. Since when did training become this big thing in Star
Star
Wars?
Wars.
Oh my!
Yeah, since when? I mean,
Every
it's not like
movie.
it's not like Star Wars is known for its character arc or the hero's journey or anything like that. I mean, come on, you're just being
Episode
ridiculous.
4, Episode 5, Episode 6,
How about
Episode
every single
1,
Star Wars story?
Episode 2. I mean, every single one except maybe the third one, I guess, where
The
Anakin's become Darth Vader and he's just like fighting and he's not training anymore.
they mention his training, so he's still trained. It's just that we don't see it, but it's still important because if he didn't have that training, he wouldn't have the powers he had in time for the Clone Wars.
Right. Uh, this
Since
is This is
Since when
incorrect.
was a Star Wars story about the Star Wars story?
I know he's just omitting evidence, or he's just not caring. He's just like he wrote this sentence without thinking about it. That's what I think. He was so angry or whatever. Like when you're frustrated and you have a one track mind, or you block other opinions out, you just sort of write what you feel. And I think this is what this paragraph is like. I don't know, but
There's no way that anyone with a with a clear, rational mind would write this sentence.
yeah,
Since when did training become this whole big thing in Star Wars?
the
Since
hero's
when?
journey. Don't know.
Star Wars made the hero's journey famous in modern pop culture.
Yeah.
That's what it's known for.
So here we keep going. Luke blew up the Death Star in A New Hope with hardly any training. Uh,
You know how he did that? By piloting, which he was trained in for many, many years because he just did it. He did it all the time.
so he has training in piloting. He has some training in the Force, and then he gets a telepathic message from Ben on how to use the Force or just to use it. And he closes his eyes. He turns off his target computer, and he feels that this is the right time. And for some reason, it works.
Yeah. He used his instincts. He
Yeah,
used his instincts because he's been piloting for years. And he's when you do something for a long time, you develop instincts related to that activity. So he would have reasonable piloting instincts because he's been doing it forever. Plus, his dad was a talented pilot.
and all we needed from Ray, if that was the case, with she has no training, it wouldn't answer every question, but have a voice in her head that says use the Force or do this, and it's like, oh, what? Who are you? Who is that? And it just like, and she does it, and she's like, what the hell? That's a
Yeah, someone
mystery,
guide
but it's something.
like a mentor, like the mentor is something to take the mentor role of the hero's journey formula, and
Anything.
preferably a mentor that isn't a lightsaber.
Oh well, inanimate objects aren't very helpful in that regard. I think he brought down the Empire without ever really getting formal training outside of Yoda. Well, he blew up a Death Star,
Hmm.
but yeah, he got training from Yoda. He got training from Obi-Wan, so it wasn't much, but he still got some. Well, no, actually, in the second, he gets a whole bunch. He gets months of training,
He gets a bunch in the second one. He gets a little bit in the first one, bunch in the second one.
and he's not as powerful as Kylo or Rey. He trained Kylo for years, apparently.
Even if Kylo is naturally stronger than Luke is, Luke should have more experience and be more like
Yeah,
razor sharp in his
he
moves.
should be able to take Kylo without breaking a sweat.
Yeah, I mean that's an old trope. You have the really powerful apprentice, then you have the old wizened mentor, and then you think that the extra powerful apprentice could take the mentor no problem, but the mentor has years and decades of experience that he just can take down an overwhelmingly powerful opponent without any sweat.
And this is one of the premises of the Sith, at least the rule of two, where you have the master who's as powerful as it gets, and then you have the
Yeah,
apprentice who's constantly seeking power.
yeah, the apprentice who wants the power.
Right. So, uh, apparently, Luke is not as powerful as Kylo or Rey. Okay.
Why isn't he as powerful? Could you give me some evidence,
Yeah,
please?
exactly. We'd like to know that.
I guess no. I guess the answer is no on the
That's just
evidence
how it
question.
goes in Erik Kain's world. So, meanwhile, we also see in The Last Jedi that Rey is hardly flawless or all powerful. That's true. She's not perfect. She has lapses of power, and then they come back and help her. Snoke could have killed her in a heartbeat, and very nearly does. That's true, but that has nothing to do with her.
Hmm.
That's he changed characters here. He would have had Kylo Ren not betrayed him in the last moment. That's true. Snoke was, but the whole question is, why would you want to kill Rey? Like, what was the point?
Yeah, didn't Snoke want to turn her? I think he wanted to use her power.
Or at least use her
Yeah, so he wanted Luke.
to
He
get to
wanted,
Luke. But
yeah,
it's like, okay, well,
actually he wanted to kill her. He wanted to kill her, but he wanted to use her to get to Luke.
Snoke was hugely overpowered. Yes, he was, making Palpatine's force powers look paltry in comparison. I totally agree. That's another problem in the story. You have two Mary Sues running around.
But but Rey is the more powerful of the Mary Sues.
Apparently, we
Because
don't.
I remember the fighting, the battle scene when after they killed Snoke and they're fighting his Red Guards. That Rey managed to take down all of her Red Guards, but then she had to save Kylo's life because he was having trouble with his.
Right.
And then they fought over the lightsaber, and then when it exploded, it knocked Kylo out, but Rey was well enough to just escape.
Yeah,
Apparently,
but even though the it looks like the movie depicts Snoke as being overpowered, he still loses to Kylo.
yeah.
So
I mean,
so if we go through this logic, Rey, according to Erik Kain, Rey is stronger than Kylo. Snoke is stronger than Kylo. Kylo can trick Snoke and kill him. So now Rey is now the strongest. But like it's just like okay, Snoke can beat Rey. Rey can't beat Snoke. Kylo can't beat Rey, but Kylo can beat Snoke. It's just like this weird circle of like what the hell? Who's stronger than who? It makes no sense anymore. Okay,
it
so
just jumping
Rey,
from one point to another.
I don't. Yeah, like what's the point of saying Rey's stronger than Kylo if Kylo then beats Snoke if Snoke's stronger than Rey? Like what's your point? Rey is also stubborn and headstrong in this film. A curse, a blessing. She's stubborn and headstrong. Well,
She's stubborn and
is that a
headstrong.
flaw? I don't. Where is that a flaw?
I don't think that's a flaw. That's more. That's mostly like a generic trait for a hero, like in this position.
Headstrong, yeah, stubborn, I guess, but it never really gets her into trouble. It's
And
just
if we got her in trouble, like I think we said last time, then it would be a flaw. But it doesn't.
she never gets what's his name, the Wookiee in trouble. Chewbacca's like just goes along with everything and nothing happens
Yeah,
to him.
he's like whatever. And even Ray, she literally like launched herself on a little space coffin thing and
Yeah,
then landed right into the enemy ship, and it all turned out just fine. She ended up destroying Snoke. You know, Snoke ended up dying.
yeah. The fact
The
she does
everything
this makes no sense.
she just does it, and
She
it
wants.
turns
She
out
thinks
fine.
she thinks Kylo's going to turn. It's like she's seen it, but she doesn't understand it, so she's going to do it. It's like how could you see these things? How did you do this? Walking right into Snoke's. It's not a trap. You're literally walking into the enemy's base with no plan.
No plan. Just she knows it's going to work out.
There's another part of this that also important to point out. Rey never saves the day on her own. She doesn't. She single-handedly got out of this whole scenario.
Clean. And she
It's
didn't have any. There's nothing. She took away no scars or no pain, no nothing. Just
maybe
walked away.
the hyperspace ramming was like a distraction, but after that, she somehow walks down the hallway, whatever this giant ship is left of it. She steals Snoke's ship. Somehow she manages to hook up with the freaking Millennium Falcon, abandons the ship, and then she's back on. Is it Crate? And she's just blowing away Tie fighters, and she's like cheering and having a great time. It's just like what?
And he runs in like Han Solo did in the first movie and just starts destroying things and saving the day as easy as pie.
A true Mary Sue is someone who could win without help. She freaking defeated Luke.
Yeah, she beat Luke in this movie. Like in the first movie, she defeats Kylo Ren. The second movie, she defeats Luke. Like Luke should have beaten her easily. And he was putting up a good, all right fight until she got the lightsaber, and then there's nothing he could do. I was expecting Luke to do like pull out some cool Force stuff and like make her lightsaber useless, but he didn't. He just lost
Yeah, he could have like launched her in the sky to 200 feet or just
or
held her there.
something
Yeah.
or something. I beaten her some way, but like I said, Rey isn't allowed to lose. So of course, Luke Skywalker, the legendary Luke Skywalker, like the last holder of the Jedi Order, just lost.
And just as Luke wouldn't have been able to blow up the Death Star without Han Solo coming back to the fight. Okay, well that is true. That's part of like Han Solo is like Luke's hero in that regard, the
Yeah.
hero's hero. Rey wouldn't have been able to have any of the successes she had in this or the previous film without the help of her friends. What help?
How? What help? Yeah, what exactly? What help? The first movie, she got captured, and then she escaped by herself. In this movie, she went in by herself to see if she can turn Kylo, and then Snoke ended up dead. She defeated all the guards, and then she stole a ship and she left. Got back on the Millennium Falcon,
Yeah.
left cleanly, and then went somewhere else to save another day.
She goes to Luke to get his help with Chewie. She can't, so she goes to Kylo to try and turn him with Chewie. She can't, and then she escapes herself and meets up with Chewie again and then just blows away all kind of TIE fighters, like I guess all of them. And then she magically moves rocks, and she saves everyone. Like what? What did? Who helped her?
And she doesn't do just move rocks. She moves like an almost like an entire landslide worth of
Oh yeah,
rocks
we'll get to
fairly
that.
easily.
Yeah, that was. I'm sure he mentions it because it's so ridiculous. Indeed, by the end of the film, the resistance is in tatters, and Rey barely managed to usher the ragtag band of survivors to safety before Kylo Ren and the First Order corner and destroy them. Only Luke's trickery and deception save them. All Rey does is move some rocks. Okay, here we go. You know how
All
in the
she does is
scene
move
where
rocks.
she actually does get some training and she's like she's cross-legged and the rocks crack,
Yeah,
and that's when Luke goes, "I've never seen such raw strength before." It's like, why couldn't she have done that? Why couldn't she have cracked the ground so all the rocks fall?
she wasn't sitting down cross legs because that was the first lesson that Luke gave her, wasn't it? This, all right, get up on this rock, cross your legs, and then all of a sudden, boom, she can crack the ground.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, if that's her thing, great, go with that movie. But no, all of a sudden she could pick up a mountain slide, and imagine you're at a the the mouth of that cave or where it's all blocked off by rubble, and all of a sudden you see these like ton, I don't know, 20-ton rocks up in the air, and you're like, oh my god, what the hell? I'm not gonna walk out there, and all of a sudden the rocks just neatly like parting the Red Sea, just like poof, just neatly go away. So she can command powers on a scale never before seen, and manipulate them all at once. It's incredible.
Easy, the drop of a hat. Like
All Ray does is move some rocks.
It took Luke some training and a lot of concentration to get his X-wing out of the swamp. It took Ray a couple of days, maybe, and barely any training. Luke was like a hands-off kind of master. She came back, moves some rocks real easy, and I like how he does. He says all she does is move some rocks because he has no evidence to prove to us that the moving of the rock scene wasn't a Mary Sue moment. So he just goes, yeah, it's just move some rocks, kind of downplaying it instead of showing us why it isn't the Mary Sue moment.
Yeah, and if you see a picture of that scene on Google image search or wherever, it's a lot. It's not just a
It,
little, it's a lot.
it's a lot of rocks. Like it's probably at least I would say a good chunk of tonnage that she's moving around pretty easily.
I would say at least 20 tons. I mean, we're talking massive boulders here. Anyway, in his way, a true Mary Sue would have turned Kylo Ren. Um, okay, I
She
don't know
almost did.
why. I don't know why that is because when you're talking about a Mary Sue, you're talking about someone who could solve problems, not influence others.
Hmm.
Unless she's like a psychologist or a diplomat or something.
Or in God Mode Sue, a God Mode Sue, which is probably the closest example of the Trekkie Mary Sue. That yeah, this is something that usually happens. They can just turn. In fact, there's like a lot of Mary Sues in like fan fiction or whatever they've been known to turn or defeat major villains off screen. So that is something they can do.
Yeah, but this is assuming that this is part of her skill set. Like if she doesn't have the skill, it's not like she
Yeah.
can just do anything like a god. No, no, no. We're
It's,
talking about
yeah.
specific force powers. That's it. Not like okay, obviously training with the lightsaber is another skill, but I mean, was she ever a diplomat? Could she ever do that? Like she doesn't have to
Nope.
be excellent at like is she the perfect walker? Is she the perfect chef? Is she like what? Like no, she's
Yeah.
we're talking specifically about what her she has skill in, and it comes out of nowhere. If she doesn't
Yeah.
have
Like
skill in diplomacy, good. That makes
you can't be perfect at
sense.
everything. And like we said, he's thinking about God Mode Sue.
Yeah,
There are a lot of flavors of Mary Sue, and there's still a Mary Sue. Ray is not a God Mode level Sue, but she still is very much a Mary Sue.
right. So Ray did none of these things. Vice Admiral Hull ultimately saved the fleet after getting half of them, if not most of them, killed. And Luke saved the last survivors. No, he didn't. He just stalled.
Yeah, he stalled.
Ray was just part of a much greater effort. No, she was just randomly doing her own stuff.
She's kind of there. She wasn't really in the effort. She was there shooting things and then moved some rocks and managed to save the day. Still,
Finally, yeah, it's kind of weird. Finally, it's interesting to hear the same people who complain about Rey being a Mary Sue in the same breath that Kylo Ren has won and the Resistance is obviously doomed. Well, if there's only 12 people left, I don't know. What do you think? I think that's pretty obvious what's going on here. This was explicitly rebuked in the film when Luke Skywalker tells his nephew that no, the rebellion is just beginning. But what's funny about this is just how contradictory the two statements are. How can a Rey be a proper Mary Sue if Kylo Ren is the clear victor? What?
Rey didn't lose. She won. It's the rebellion that lost. Rey is not the personification of the rebellion. Leia would fit that point a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's assuming that Mary Sue fixes everything, can do anything, and
Yeah,
because
it's
she
not.
doesn't do
So,
everything, she's not a Mary Sue. It's like, no, dude. There are flavors, there are intensities, there are you could say genres of Mary Sue. There's so many.
yeah, it's a lot. And even in the original Trekkie's Tale, where that he cites, the original Mary Sue ends up it's killed. She sacrifices herself to save the ship, but she gets killed. She
Right.
doesn't win 100%.
She's not perfect. So I don't know where he's getting this definition of God mode Sue, or I would say like level 8, not 10, but level 8 God mode Sue, where she can do just about anything aside
Yeah,
from being omnipotent. It's just right there. That's what that's his standard for Mary Sueness. And every other definition is false or forgotten or not even known.
which is false.
Yeah, like you're just not paying attention, dude. Like there's more definitions. This was explicitly
He's so
booked. I mean, yeah,
so desperate for her not to be Mary Sue.
I don't know
It's
why.
true
Yeah,
desperation.
it's not a big deal. Say, dude, there's other examples. But what's funny about this? Yeah, okay. Uh, how can Ray be a proper Mary Sue? Kylo Ren is a true victor. How can Ray? This is the answer, because she's not a Mary Sue, and Kylo Ren's the victor. Therefore, she's not a Mary Sue. How did she stop Kylo? What did she do to stop Kylo?
She
She
did nothing.
she
She teamed up with him for a little bit.
she teamed up. They both went to reach for the lightsaber. It blew up in their faces.
He got
That's
knocked
when
out.
yeah,
She left.
that's when Holdo crashed into the ship, and that was it. They had no conflict. It was literally a Deus Ex Machina. Came out of nowhere and solved it, and
Which
she
is
walked
something
away.
that's something that would happen to Mary Sue. If she can't solve the problem, then the world will solve the problem for her.
Yeah,
That's so that supports the the assertion that she's a Mary Sue doesn't detract from it.
if we were talking about her stopping Kylo, that never happened. There was no conflict between her and Kylo that I can think of.
And when has the Force been able to allow a Jedi to project themselves across the universe so he can fight somebody or stall somebody in that sort of manner? I mean, they could sense each other before, or maybe even communicate little by little before. But Luke projected a Force ghost across the universe so he could stall the First Order. That jumped in to help save the day for some of the remaining resistance. And these are like a world breaking, force breaking things that happen just so the resistance can survive and Rey doesn't have to lose.
Again, he's using his bias or his standard, and he's not thinking about other pieces of evidence. He's not looking at what a Mary Sue is. He has his ironclad definition, and he's just disagreeing with every other definition.
I think he chose the most convenient definition
Yes,
because
yes.
yeah, the most convenient
The one he
definition.
likes the most, that is as close to the most omnipotent Mary Sue there is, the God Mode Sue. And he said, "Oh, there we go. It's not
And,
therefore."
and God mode suits have been pretty much stamped out. You don't really see God mode
No, you
suits
don't.
anymore unless you like read some like high schoolers fan fiction. That won't fly no matter how
Yeah,
big of the
the
agenda you want
the
to push.
closest you get are like Neil Gaiman's stories where there's actual gods that snap their fingers and stuff happens.
Yeah,
But even
Neil
then,
Gaiman knows how to
but
write them
yeah,
pretty
he
well.
writes those characters because they're the personification of like dreams or destiny or whatever. So
Yeah.
all right, let's keep going. That's just a really lame way to complain about a character that some people really dislike for reasons I simply cannot fathom. He has
We
no
can't
idea.
can't fathom why she would be called a Mary Sue.
I'm sure someone has explained. Dude, there's more than one kind of Mary Sue, and he's like, nope.
Nope, it can't possibly be because that would make me wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Luke was every bit as op is in the context. I don't know. You're gonna have to back that up,
No,
buddy.
He is not. Like, what are you talking about? He's probably the least OP character in compared to all the other Star Wars heroes. Like, they just keep getting stronger and stronger.
Gets his arm chopped off. Luke, Darth Vader's like toying with him half the time.
Yeah, he gets beaten. He has to learn. He has to earn everything he gets.
Yeah,
He's not OP at all.
this is just and he's already agreed that she's stronger than Luke.
Yeah, he said that he's stronger. She's stronger than Luke.
So I think it's a bit contradictory there, but I'll give it to the fact that maybe he's confused and doesn't know the original trilogy very well. I'll give him that. In some ways, he's even more Mary. Oh, he's even more Mary Sue than Rey. Though the Last Jedi remedies this it's beautifully done by giving Luke his own baggage. Okay, so wait a second here.
What are you talking? He's just jumping again from one point to the next point.
So Luke is more of a Mary Sue than she is. We don't know why, even though he comes with his own baggage. So wait a second. How could he be more Mary Sue if he has his own baggage and regrets?
Like, he says one thing is fact in one sentence, in the next sentence he says something completely different that contradicts it.
Yeah, because his definition of Mary Sue is someone who's like near perfect.
Yeah. So it doesn't is different standard for Luke, different standard for Rey.
Yeah, so Mary Sue Rey is near God mode, so therefore false. Mary Sue for Luke is who knows.
That he has Jedi powers.
I don't. But he has baggage, therefore.
He has baggage.
I don't even follow his logic, but okay.
He has really stupid baggage. It's not really all that well explained.
It's not explained. It's just like, oh, something bad happened when I looked at my nephew at night and I felt bad. It's like, what? That's why you ran away.
The great legend Luke Skywalker is that weak that one bad thing happened one time and now he has to destroy the Jedi Order.
Like, he would be the guy to like correct that problem as soon as possible.
And he's such a weak character in this movie that even his goal of destroying the Jedi Order, when he goes to burn down everything, he can't. Force Yoda has to come out of nowhere, summon a storm, and cast lightning on the tree, and he has to burn it. Luke can't even do that part right.
But he's more of a Mary Sue than Rey, so
Somehow.
I guess it works out.
Take his word for it, I guess.
We're gonna have to, yeah. But Luke, like Anakin before him, was presented as the chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. Was Luke ever seen as the chosen one?
Specifically, not really. No,
I don't think so.
He was the kid of a very powerful Jedi.
That's about it. Yeah.
He wasn't designated as a chosen one. He was just a hero. But I mean, you could make that argument. I won't fault you for making that argument. But I would also say Rey was just as much a chosen one in her story. And I don't see anyone else doing all kinds of Force crazy stuff that she does naturally, unless maybe for Kylo. But he had training. But so far, Rey is the only one that has the ability to do all this crazy Force stuff on a natural, no training basis. And that sort of stuff that usually designates a character as some kind of chosen one. Like, why she is the one doing this stuff.
I don't know what he's trying to get at, though. That's the problem. I'm trying to see why he mentioned that. The first 6 movies were built around creating this myth around Luke and his father. That's true. Rey is just Rey. She's not a chosen one. She's not the daughter of some famous character. She's a nobody. Oh, wait a second. She's certainly not a Mary Sue because she's nobody? How does this fall into this?
That doesn't logically follow. You can be a nobody and be a Mary Sue. I mean, that's basically how it's done. You're a nobody, and then you're so perfect in every way, you become somebody.
Because if you are from a lineage, then it's explained. Then you're not a Mary Sue.
It'd be better if she wasn't a nobody.
Yeah, then be like, oh, that's where she gets her power from. Therefore, she can do all these crazy things. We still don't know how, but we'll go with that because we got something to work with.
Yeah, it's at least somewhat explained as to why she has all these powers and gifts and everything. The fact that she's a nobody actually hurts this guy's case.
Here we go. He talks about, I guess I don't know what this is all about, but I'll just go to the last paragraph. Oh, and please try to come up with more creative and original lines of criticism. This is getting boring. See, this is like, oh, I'm so right. You guys are so wrong. The Force is magic. It's not Brandon Sanderson style magic either. Stop treating it like a hard science. the Force is space magic, yes,
Yeah,
but there are rules, and we've seen these rules throughout the movies. And The Last
and
Jedi was the worst example of stretching the believability of those rules as far as we could, because we knew we could sense things from far away. When they blew up, was it Tatooine or Alderaan?
yeah, Alderaan. They blew up Alderaan.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan went, "Whoa, what was that?"
Yeah, all these people, but he felt that because so many people died all at once.
It was like
And
a psychic explosion, just sort of
yeah,
boom throughout the galaxy, which is interesting. And we don't know the exact distance, but it was, a big
and
event.
thing about science and fantasy genre is that yeah, they usually have like some sort of magical system, but just because it's not a hard magic system doesn't mean it doesn't have rules. It doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that's
There's establishment rules in every single magic system.
and if you change the rules, you have to retcon them properly.
Yeah, it has
Retcons,
to make.
yeah, retcons are generally seen as bad things because you're changing what you already understand about something. So, in the case of the midichlorians, it's like, oh, it's no longer a mystical force. There's actually an empirical basis. It doesn't really alter the fact it's only or it's no longer a mystical force. It just adds to it. So it's like it's a
Yeah,
mystical
but yeah,
force and it's physical.
it adds something to it. It's dumb, but it doesn't break the rules that have been set before the Metachlorians appeared. You could still have okay, so the original trilogy had this guy's powerful in the Force. He's powerful in the Force. He's Force sensitive. You know, you hear those terms all the time in Star Wars. Is it the Metachlorians was something put in place to explain why some people are more powerful in the Force than others? It's dumb, but doesn't derail everything.
Yeah, so to say that because it's space magic, anything's possible, sort of does a disservice to writing in general. Because
That's a really weak argument. That's a really weak argument.
yeah, like
You should
even
feel
even
ashamed for making that argument.
Rowling's when she was writing Harry Potter, like she had an entire school. There was a whole culture of wizards. There was dark wizards. There was all kinds of like there's a science behind all the categories of magic. Like that was, I would say, a hard fantasy story because
Yeah.
it doesn't explain everything. You can do all kinds of silly things that are outside of the realm of what's established, but you'd have to pay a price of believability if you do that. So you have to explain it. You have to show it. It has to be some secret magical spell that's has been around for a long, long time. All of these things have to be explained or
Yeah, I
shown
think
properly.
a good example of creating a quote unquote magic system is pretty much itemized in Death Note, the series Death Note, because he gets a Death Note that can on the surface can pretty much kill anybody for at any any time any way he wants, and then you find out there's rules, and that's how you make the tension. That's how the author said, or the creator said, that that's how they made the tension within the series, was by adding in the rules to the Death Note, and that's how magical systems work, whether they be hard magic or soft magic. So you need some kind of basis for the magical system to work properly, and for there to be tension and other elements added to it. You can't just add in something new just because it's magic, therefore it's fine.
Yeah, so I don't think Eric understands narrative structure very well. I don't think he understands the lore, certainly not the lore of the first three movies, or rather the first original trilogy. And he doesn't understand any other definitions of Mary Sue. Like if he just said, you know what, there are other definitions of Mary Sue out there, it's a very nebulous term. This is the one I believe. And if you believe in others, that's fine. Because there's so many and there's nothing hard about it, but to disregard every other instance, every other story, every other idea, and to make up his own. And again, we don't know exactly what flavor of Mary Sue he's using. It's between God mode and perfect Sue, like where she does everything. We don't know.
It depends on which character he's talking about. He has different standards of Mary Sue for
Yeah,
different
and
characters.
he's saying that the perfect uh, idealized Ray is not a Mary Sue because she's not perfect in every way, but Luke is. And then he says that
Yeah.
Luke has flaws, and you're just like, what?
Luke is even more of a Mary Sue, apparently.
Yeah, it just like it doesn't like every bit is up, and it's like I don't, dude. Like,
And I legitimately have no idea where he's coming from when he says that Luke is more of a Mary Sue. I'm not really sure where he's coming from there.
It's strange, yeah. So he triples down on this, and we're going to go over this next week. I wish we could get more insight. It's more of a comedy fest just for us to look at this and go, "What the hell is this man talking about?" But he's been going. I think he's just getting angry that he has to defend himself, and he doesn't know how because there's so many people just blowing him out of the water, and he just got tired of it. And I don't know what kind of a contributor he is if he writes stuff like this, but
I
not
hope
cool,
not.
man.
These past two articles have been complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah, I wish he just backed up his reasonings and his definitions. If he did that, I'd be like, oh, I know where you're coming from. I could still disagree with you or agree with you, but at least I can wrap my brain around your stance. Because right now he's just getting angry.
He's basically his arguments are it's this way because I say it's this way,
Yeah,
and I'm right because
essentially,
I say I'm right.
which is really not something that someone who wishes to learn about writer's craft or how to compose a story or why we have tropes matters because there's so many opinions on these patterns we see, and every time we get a new story, there's a new take on those tropes, and we want to understand why they're good and why they're bad or how they're used. And he obviously likes this movie,
Yeah, he really
which
likes
is
to use it.
fine. There's nothing wrong with liking this movie.
I like
It's
terrible things all the time. I just don't defend them and say they're good.
Yeah, like I this is a really beautiful looking movie. It has amazing special effects.
I like the explosions.
Explosions were good. Ship designs were cool. Music was amazing.
It's an
The
entertaining movie. I won't deny that
It
it's an
is
entertaining movie.
entertaining. Yeah. Everything else, the logic, which you need some logic in a sci-fi flick, even if it's just sci-fi, it's not hard sci-fi or hard science fiction. The design of some of the ships, the strategy of everyone, the motivations of characters, the scene progression, the B plots, really bad, like horribly bad.
The sins of wasting awesome characters. They wasted Benicio del Toro. They wasted Brienne of Tar again. They have.
she she has a second life, a third life. She a cat. She keeps coming back.
She better not be gone. Phasma better not be dead. That'd be horrible.
I want her to die again, just as stupidly. Like maybe she gets an arm turned off, and then she gets cut in three. And it's like, oh my god, is there gonna be a sequel? She becomes like as a robot or something.
And she gets her own movie. It's only like 5 minutes long.
Roboplasma, Robophasma. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for having us again. We might be back next week with part three because again, Erik Kain knows no bounds when it comes to defending himself. And thanks for taking the time with us this Saturday, and we will talk to you later.
All right, see you next week.